Well, thank you all for coming. I'm Chief Ron Thomas, here to provide an initial update on a critical incident that happened here in Commons Park between 16th and Platt and 16th and Little Raven. What I understand happened at this time is that there was a call about 3:40 this afternoon of a male party armed with a long gun in Commons Park, roughly at 16th and Platt, who was reportedly chasing people around and yelling at them. Officers responded to the scene pretty quickly, eventually located the male in the park, armed with the rifle. They issued some initial commands to him. He did not respond to those commands. In fact, he actually started firing at the officers, striking one of the officers' vehicles. The officers then immediately returned fire, ended the threat, and then immediately called for an ambulance that came in and pronounced him deceased here at the scene. Where this incident happened, if you could see just kind of over the hill behind me, that's exactly where they encountered the male and where the forced encounter occurred. We will be initiating our officer-involved shooting protocol, where we will have officers from our Denver Police Homicide Unit, as well as investigators from State Patrol and CBI, will conduct a joint investigation under the oversight of the Office of the Independent Monitor. And that investigation will be turned over to the district attorney for their review. I do understand that there may have been individuals in the park or in the area that may have seen something. So anyone who may have seen something, we encourage anyone to reach out to us and report that. We do have a number of witnesses that we are interviewing that do have something to share with us. Any questions?
Chief, did the suspect fire before the officers arrived at any of the people that he was chasing?
At this point, we don't believe that he fired any shots at people that he was engaged with in the park. The reports that we had were that he was yelling at them and kind of chasing them around the park, and they saw that he was armed with this long gun. But we don't have any information to suggest that he fired any shots before he was challenged by the officers.
And then did he fire at officers or out of the vehicle?
He actually struck one of the officers' vehicles, so we do believe that he was firing at the officers.
And you say long gun, is that an assault rifle?
It's a rifle of some sort. We'll have to do some investigation to determine exactly what the caliber and what style of rifle it is, but it is a long gun.
Do you know how many officers fired?
Do I know how many officers fired?
Yes.
We had multiple officers on scene at the time of force, and 2 of them fired.
How important was protocol and timing in this instance? I'd imagine the department reacted pretty quickly here. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously, something significant like this, a person walking around armed with a weapon, threatening people, I think it's critical that we get here quickly, and thankfully we did get here quickly. We're able to identify that individual, or at least find the described individual and challenge him. Unfortunately, he instead of disarming, he chose to shoot at the officers, which I think prompted our officers to protect themselves, protect the rest of the community by returning fire.
Do you know what he was yelling at people? Or was there description?
I don't. We'll have to interview folks in order to get a better sense of what he was yelling and what he was trying to engage these folks for.
Chief, taking kind of a step back and understanding this area that we're in, folks running through, biking through on their way
Yes.
home to work, a busy area.
Yes.
To have someone with a weapon of that kind behaving in the way that this person reportedly was, describe kind of how big of a threat officers take that as.
Well, I mean, it's a significant threat. I think anybody who's in our community armed with a weapon, particularly if there's someone that shouldn't be armed with a weapon, I think that's a significant concern for us, and certainly a concern for us that he's inclined to threaten people and then inclined to shoot at people, and particularly shoot at officers.
Is there something about it being an assault rifle that raises the bar on that?
Well, I do think that it raises the bar because, if it is indeed an assault rifle, obviously, that's not, something that we want just, the average citizen to have in their possession and be carrying around in a park. But certainly it, I think, heightens the threat level for the community, certainly heightens the threat level for our officers.
Any officers injured?
No, thankfully, none of the officers were struck, none of the officers were injured whatsoever.
Can you talk about the officers discharging their firearms in a busy park like this? That's obviously not an ideal situation.
Not an ideal situation, but the officers, I think, were very aware of their backgrounds, very aware that there was no one else within, their side of fire. I'm sure at some point in time you'll be able to see exactly what it looks like on the other side of the hill here. So I think their line of fire, the vantage points that they had, I think that the public was safe.
You said that the suspect fired at one of the officers' vehicles. Did it hit the
It did.
in the window,
It did.
shatter a windshield?
It put a hole inside the car.
Was an officer inside the car at the time it was shot?
I believe he was behind the car, using the car as cover and concealment.
Any idea timing on park closure?
I would imagine, given the darkness and given the evidence that we need to recover and photographs and things like that we need to take, I would imagine this park is going to be closed for several more hours.
Chief, I was just struck by you saying that one of your officers was using the car as cover and the bullet went into that very car as other officers are aiming their guns at this suspect with this rifle. I mean, this is a real standoff here in the middle of downtown.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, an individual who, when confronted by law enforcement and told to disarm themselves, chose instead, to start firing at the officers. Unfortunately, leaving those officers no choice but to protect themselves and protect the community.
Do you know how many witnesses you may be interviewing at this point? How many folks called 911 to report this?
There were several calls into 911, so we'll have to reach out to each one of them to see what it is that they saw. Obviously, a number of individuals in the park, so quite a few witnesses that we'll have to debrief and see what they saw.
In this situation, we always talk about body-worn cameras as well. Is that something you're looking at as well?
Certainly, it's my expectation that the officers had their body-worn cameras activated, and so we'll certainly have the officers' perspective as well.
Anything else, Chief?
No, again, I know that there probably are potentially witnesses that may have seen something that is relevant to this investigation. So if you think that you have seen something and we haven't already been in contact with you, please reach out and share that information with us. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.